Hello, my name is Brant Hunt, and my channel is Discerning What is True. I'm on Facebook, actually, and YouTube, Discerning What is True channel. Also on Odyssey, on Discerning What is True. I'm going to talk about communitarianism, the whole idea that shows what communitarian is. The whole idea of communitarianism is something that's unnatural, which I pointed that out actually a week ago when I did another video on it. I think it's important people understand that communitarianism is basically communism, but it's been morphed. It's been changed in a way that basically comes down to the lower man, so to speak, and to the point that he thinks that this sounds like a great idea. When in reality, the idea is that it's not natural. If you have to be taught these things instead of actually working with your brothers and sisters in a community, your neighbors within your own neighborhood, then it's actually not what it appears to be. You see, it's another Trojan horse, so to speak, and it has seduced people. It has fooled people. People think it's a great fucking idea, and they have no idea what they're talking about because they don't know anything about it. It just sounds good. Of course it does. It sounds great, doesn't it? It sounds really good. And most of the people out here are what I would call, as the communists proved in the past, they've always used what I would call the lower classes or the peasants to who don't think for themselves, who don't think at all, who want everything to be spelled out to them. They're not willing to dig for it at all. And that's why they follow this. This is why they're so easily pulled here and there, you see. This is why communism, when the Bolshevik Revolution that took place in Russia, they eliminated the intellectuals immediately. Almost immediately after they took power, they went after those who had, I call, knowledge of how things work, either business-wise, industrial-wise, or politically-wise, or economically-wise. And what happened was they got rid of them. And the peasants were like, yay, get rid of them, get rid of them. They're bad people. In reality, simply is that it was next. They were next. You see, there's only a few, what I would call, in almost any society or any industrial country or any free country, I should say, is you have what I call a few people who are actually the bulwark of holding back these bad ideas, these false ideas from others who are revolutionaries, who try to, quote unquote, to destroy a country. And they always speak badly. That is, these people, this is the idea, because they don't have any fucking good ideas, you see. They always speak badly of others who, oh, they're stealing from you, they're robbing from you, they're taking everything from you, they such and such, And that's what politicians do, actually. They're just a form of brainwashed people. They've been brainwashed themselves to the point simply is they buy the idea. Plus, they like to have power over people. But reality simply is they are the middlemen. They're not at the top. They never will be. They're just useful idiots, you see. And that's the way it goes, you see. And like we say, for example, for the communists that took over Russia, people like trying to think his name, Lenin. He's just a useful idiot. He was a complete psycho. He loved death. He did. So did Trotsky and all the minions around him. And they belong to a clan. They believe they have a completely different perspective. And I've pointed this also out to you in my Monday video actually this week, early this week, that is Monday. What communitarianism, where its roots are. It's been in society, civilization for the last, well, it's probably at least 6,000 years. Look at the Old Testament. It talks about the whole story about who they are and what they do. It's right there. It spells it right out in front of you. It tells you what God they worship, which actually are not one God. It's actually many gods, you see. So communism never died. It morphed into what I call a fuzzy thing called communitarianism. It's a nice, sweet thing, you know. It's really, you know, it's just adorable. It's something that's going to change society for the good. Then tell me, why is this all being quote unquote programmed to everybody? In fact, many people think they don't understand. In the social sciences is where they're using this at, which is where they've been using it. The political science realm, the sociology realm, the psychology realm, which we'll talk about Herbert Marcuse. Many people quote Herbert Marcuse as some kind of great guy. No, he's not a great guy, folks. He comes from that clan, comes from the same old clan that wants to rule the world. And he belonged to the Franklin School, Frankfurt, I should say. And then he went on to Tavistock. But I don't want to get into that because that's another video sometime. But what I'm trying to explain to you is this. You are the authority. You choose to elect someone to be your authority. And in reality, you give your power away. That seems foreign to almost everybody. Everybody wants someone to rule over them. But in reality, the law of the land is, unlike the law of the sea, the law of the land simply is that you're the king of your property and how you take care of things. And that's what made America so good and great in the past, because simply was people were given the individual responsibility. They were given the individual rights that came from the government down. In other words, they were allowed to, quote unquote, live this way, live on the land, and do no harm, and to build their own world they would like to see, a way of producing something, doing no harm, and eventually creating a form of heaven on earth in this particular country of the United States of America early on. We were warned, though, at first, that simply is, if you're not vigilant about it, it will come in, lo and behold, slowly and gently, the poison would be added to the water system, so to speak, or to the way of your thinking. That's why education, see, most people in the first 100 years of, not first 100 years, but the first 50 years of this country, before them, was self-taught. They taught themselves. They taught themselves. They didn't have a teacher. And if they did have a teacher, again, it was actually on a small level. And I've done a video years ago on a particular teacher that was actually in the state of South Carolina, who taught young men who came all the way from Charleston, South Carolina, to a place actually near Wellington, South Carolina, which is roughly 2 or 3 hours away by car. But these people would naturally didn't have cars, so they came by wagons. It would be actually 2 or 3, probably more than 2 or 3, probably a week's worth of travel to bring their children under this particular guy. And his name was Waddell, Moses Waddell. And he taught boys. He didn't teach girls. He taught boys how to live and how to understand Latin, how to understand Greek, and also be responsible in actually taking care of themselves at a young age, to be men, not to be boys, but to be men. And his name is Moses Waddell. But let's get back to the whole thing here. Simply is that if you don't have individual rights, that means everyone doesn't have individual rights. And that means simply is to do no harm also to others, but yet have the right to do whatever you want to do as long as it doesn't harm anyone or anything of that nature. Then that will be a heaven on earth. But we've departed from that, you see, because we are following legalese. We're not following the Constitution anymore in this country. We're following what lawyers come up with all their quote unquote legalese, rules, ideas that actually are put in books that makes people think, okay, they must have changed the rules here. No, yeah, they're actually building a second constitution, so to speak, but it's not a constitution. It's a way of actually deceiving you. If the Constitution is not the law of the land, then let's replace it, folks. Okay? If it needs to be replaced, then let's do that and be honest with the people. But these people are not honest. See, that's the whole idea. And it's a gradual, what I call socialism. It's a socialism, a Fabian type of ideas that get mixed in and sound really good, don't they? Let's just help everybody, such and such. And let's the government collect us. The key is simply the government doesn't create anything, folks. They just take. That's all you got to figure out. The government itself doesn't create anything. They're dependent upon you and me to produce. And so when you give that power to them, you in reality, and they take it, they don't give it, they take it, you see. And so when you do that, simply is the reality is that you are giving away your authority and you believe in that. Or you're threatened by them, which is what's happening over the last 50, 60 years, if not longer, in this country. And it's out, folks, it's out in the bowl now. It's out in front saying what it is. So the idea simply is what I'm trying to explain to you is that communism never died. It just morphed into another idea of communitarianism. And probably what I would call is more of to do with Fabian socialism, because it's a nice, quiet, gentle type of thing. It makes you feel good and fuzzy inside. You know, oh, we're so loved. The government takes care of us. You see. To show something here, I want to give you a quote here from Hillary Clinton, just showing the ideas, what she talked about, and how they have fooled many of us. Let me get to it here. This is the idea here. There's one idea from her. Quote, many of you are well enough off that the tax cuts may have helped you. That is in past tense. We're saying that for America to get back on track, we're probably going to cut that short and not give it to you. We're going to take things away from you on behalf of the common good. The common good, the communitarianism, because all these other people, we need to be helping them. In reality, folks, in my opinion, since the 1960s, when I was born, 1960, the population of this country has risen from 130 to 135 million more. And most of that is not actually from, quote unquote, from natural born people here. It's from people from out the country who have no idea what this country is all about. They just come here because there's a job. There's another quote here from Hillary Clinton. And let me see if I can find it real quick. Hold on just a second for me. Here it is. Here's a quote. This is quite key. And I'm not saying this is Democrats do this all, folks. The Republicans do it too. I'll explain that to you in a second. We must stop thinking, quote, we must stop thinking of the individual and start thinking about what is best for society. If that's not a red flag, folks, what is? Do you see that? Do you see that? The individual is no longer important. His rights. And this is why this country is falling apart. And this is why the peasants, the people who really want nothing, don't want to do anything in life except be given their food, their house, and everything given to them when they're not really willing to work for it. I'm not complaining about those who are working for it. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the ones who simply don't want to do anything and they want to be fed just like pigs, you see. Another quote I'll show here, let me show this particular quote here, also from her. It again points out the ideas of what is going on. Let's see if I can find it. I might have lost it here. I thought I had it right here. No, it's not coming up. Let's see. Let's see if this is it here. Here's the quote from her. This should scare you to death. Two of them. The only way to make a difference is to acquire power. What's she speaking of? She's obviously not talking about those who are individual rights. She's talking about those who to take over, to acquire it, to rule over the others. And this is an asinine quote if I ever seen one. The money has to go to, this is her, this is unbelievable. This is, again, it's talking to the people who really don't want to know. They just want to be spoon-fed. Quote, the money has to go to the federal government because the federal government will spend that money better than the private sector will spend it. Really? Really? That's a fucking lie. Government doesn't do anything, folks, except steal from people. That's what they do. They rob you of your taxes, your money that you've earned, which should not even be taxed. You see, those are all anti-constitutional ideas too. You see. So let's continue. So we've already gone through the first 2 points. That communism never died. It simply morphed into this fuzzy thing called communitarianism. 2, it is unnatural. A real community itself works together by simply loving one another, taking care of each other, checking up on each other. Are you okay? That's what we call good neighbors. That's the community, folks. So how's George doing? Such and such. Da, da, da. That's how it works. That's community. That's real community, folks. That's love in action. Not some 2-bit something down come from government or how to show you how to do something. You see. The third one. They realized that they needed to use people to their ideas or their new ideas and needed managers. And those managers are government officials in all offices. Since these particular managers were brainwashed in college. You know, I was a poli-sci major. There were 3 or 4 different areas you could go in political science. One was to take political science and get into foreign affairs. Another idea simply is for political science was actually a beginning grounds of being supposedly become a lawyer. Okay, so it's groundwork eventually to lead you to go into law school. 3 was to do what I would call do government work. In other words, most of them did this. Most went into areas as simply as there was a small minority of those that got involved in campaigning for particular political candidates. And eventually they got in that either working for the 2-party system or not even the 2-party system. You see. What the other one simply is the really scary one is political science was a way of working, getting involved and working for the government, being a part of the bureaucracy, which is mammoth now. Completely enormously mammoth. And they can't even balance the budget. They never have balanced the budget, folks, for a long time. I think especially since they balanced the budget 1 time or 2 times, that is per year, since I've been alive. And how many years have we not been involved in wars, foreign wars too, here in this country? Think about it. So in reality, simply, they needed managers. They needed people who would go along with this whole program. They believed in this thing so much that they would go out there and be what I would call, hey, this has got a great idea for you. You know, let's come here and let's, like for example, here where I live at, I oppose it dramatically. You know, not dramatically, completely, I should say. Is the idea simply is that the city of Aiken itself feels like it has the responsibility of creating what I would call, they spend your tax money. That's correct. They spend your tax money to invite bands to your community. They never tell you if they make money because they probably don't make money. They probably lose money on it. So what they do simply is they invite people coming in from other areas, just a band such and such. They set up a stage, whatever you saw it, such and such. They have all these things such and such as though it's trying to be a community thing. But that's not community, folks. That's coming from top down. Or they say it's coming from the bottom. But in reality, it's their ideas. Actually, Aiken is a town of about 40,000 people, but they have 6 full-time people who are working in tourism. And I gather these people are making at least $50,000 a year themselves. So let's multiply that simply as $300,000. But that's just their wages. What do they spend? And so there's all this tourism stuff here, you see. Because guess what, folks? There isn't any industry gradually dissipating. Plus, there's nobody actually taking the ball and picking it up and starting their own business anymore, because it's almost, our government and our banking system is so much anti small business these days. It's ridiculous. So the whole idea simply is what they do is simply is like in political science, and sociology is part of that whole area of humanities. They call it social social humanities under that umbrella. So sociology is under that, which is controlling what I would call keeping the group together. And then you have psychology, which is dealing with the individual, such and such, although it is also to do with group enormously. You have political science, and then you have what I would call the one that's hardly ever mentioned, and actually history is involved in that. And then also what we call logic, which is the one that's put to the side really far away, because far that doesn't, they don't see that as being important anymore. And I doubt that actually when I was there at USC Aiken, where I was at, they taught at least 3 foreign languages: Spanish, French, and German. I know they don't. I know they don't teach German anymore, and I don't think they teach French anymore neither. I doubt they teach that even in the high school level. When I went to high school, they offered those 3 languages also. The only language they actually recommend now is Spanish. You know your country's messed up when suddenly you have people who come here and they don't want to learn the language. They don't want to. They don't want to speak English. Then go back to where you came from. Somebody says, well, that's kind of harsh. Well, a lot of people came here in the past. French people, German people, Italians came here. People from Scotland, not Scotland, but came from Ireland, came here. They spoke a different language. What do? They learned the language. In order to be assimilated to a society, you evolve yourself in learning the language. Most people don't do that anymore. So we have to cater to these people, even though they're the minority, which some people say, and they're not, most of them, they're not here as true citizens. They're not here, when I say true citizens, that they're wanting to be Americans. They're here because of money. They're here to get a handout. That's the bottom line, folks. People say, well, that's kind of mean. And I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's the truth. You see. So here's number 4. As an individual, you are the authority. You've always been the authority. Someone just told you you're not. And you've been told that so many times that they know better than you do. Really? Why do they tell you that? To undermine you, to make you feel inferior. You're not inferior to them. You're superior to them. Any government official comes to you and says they know better than you is lying to you, because they don't know any better. They're there for a job. They're there for money. They're not there in order to make your life beautiful or splendid. They're not there to give. They're there to take from you. We talked about this in political science, especially international affairs, to take from the haves and give to the have-nots. That was explained to us back in the late 70s and early 80s. Those were ideas already promoted by our professors. That was one of them. The other one was global government. Wouldn't that be a great government? We like that. See, I'm like, and I argued against this tremendously as a 19-year-old kid. What the hell are you talking about? Why would I want to put a capital? We got enough long problems here in Washington, D.C., much less in Columbia, South Carolina. Why in the world would I want to have a world government that's based in somewhere else, some country that's actually in Europe? Why would I want that? That doesn't make any sense. You see, these ideas are planted. See, ideas have consequences. T.S. Eliot quote. It's a book he wrote. Ideas have consequences. They can be for good, but most of the time they're for bad. Ideas have consequences. And those ideas are planted in young men's people's life. And they don't know any better. They don't see anything. If they're not grounded to understand what this country's all about, then they will be swayed by this. Or they just simply will leave their heart away from it and be just nothing in the head to do what they want to call simply as, I need money. I just got to have money and I just want to have a nice life here, such and such. But I'm not going to actually support my brothers and sisters on this planet. I'm going to take from them and I'm going to destroy them, you see. Mostly, when I went to one particular meeting they had here about Agenda 21, the idea simply was that they had a facilitator. And if you spoke out and said, I don't agree with this, you were basically told to leave. No, if your idea is so fucking good, let's deal with it. In other words, if you can't handle, and see, these people were brainwashed. See, they couldn't handle the logic here, what was going on. They couldn't understand the history. You see, you have traitors within your own fucking country, folks. They are the fucking traitors, you see. And people say, why use the word fucking? Because it's wrong. Because simply as you get angry about things. You should get angry about things and see what's going on before you. Because your life is being destroyed right before your eyes here. And people, oh, I just want to be, I just want to get along. No, you don't get along. You had something here that was enormously special. It was emulated by other countries, folks. It was followed by other smaller countries that wouldn't want to be like our country. We were the pillar. We were the tower of light to other countries. But we've been told so many times that we're bad people and we need to be somebody else. We need to be something else. It goes against everything based upon your heart. And it goes against what you call in your head also. And so what is taking place is that people don't see themselves as authority. They've been destroyed. They capitulate. They give up. They no longer speak out against anything anymore. And that means that the other group is going to win. You're not even allowed to speak out against any of these things, you see. I was involved with actually probably 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, against what I would call something the government was planning to do here in City of Aiken, wanted to completely what they call, I don't know if you've heard about this, they want to revitalize downtown. And I'm like, why do we need to revitalize it? If you have, as long as you allow these small businesses to operate and do what they do, people will come here as long as they're done right. Why does the city have to get involved in that? So they were going to destroy certain buildings that were tenants. They were actually in their own businesses there. They were going to destroy those buildings. They were going to mow those down. They're going to bulldoze them. You follow? Do you understand that, folks? That's not true freedom. That's a dictatorship. Ruthless. And once they start this idea, so see, these ideas have been planted in these young minds who really think they're special. And they're not so special. Except what they're doing is they're destroying people's lives, their livelihoods, their way of life. And you have to examine these things and dig deep to yourself simply as, what is communitarianism? Why is it so important for people to get on board with this? My idea simply is, and I've said it before, I'll make it very clear. When it comes to the point simply is that your leaders are what I call misleaders. Your only way of actually dealing with these people is not to vote at all. You don't give them any consent. You take your power back. You say, fuck you. You take your power back and you say, I'm going to live the way I'm going to live. I'm going to do what's right. I don't need you in my life. I'll take responsibility for everything in my life. I don't need government at all. I don't need it at the local level. I don't need it at the state level. I don't even need it at the school level, do I? I can teach my kids, you see. I'm smart enough to do that. I can take responsibility in my life. You see, I don't need you. And that's the idea you got to be, folks. You got to say to yourself simply, fuck this shit, and say, I'm going to do it the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to live the way I'm going to live, and I'm going to teach my kids the way I teach them. I don't need the government. I don't need you at all. I don't need you at all in my life. I don't need your communitarianism. I don't need your bullshit. And you'll see this simply, this is all a lie. It's a tremendous lie because it's based upon carbonization. A lot of it is carbon is bad. Really? Really? How long have we been? Oh, pollution. Well, the pollution, where's the problem with the pollution? I'll tell you where it comes from. It's a problem, what I call corporatization. That is, the corporatization of government is that they allow this to happen. In other words, the government itself capitulates and allows these corporations to buy into it and say, oh, just look the other way. You know, we're throwing out nuclear waste over here, or we are throwing out oil over here, some whatever it is, chemicals, I should say, they're deadly. And in reality, simply in the past, simply is we created products that simply that were not in danger for people to use. But no, 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 no. We don't do that anymore, do we? We produce products now that simply actually cause harm to people and sell it because the government looks the other way. So what's the point in having government if they can't do the damn job? What's the point in paying taxes to them too? Why? Why do you want this type of stuff? You got to dig down deep and say, look, I'm going to take control of my life. You may want to do this shit, but you're not going to do it on my territory. You're not going to do it in my house. I'm not going along with this anymore. I'm tired of being Mr. Goody Goody here and allow this. That doesn't mean you go to the government and quote unquote march on their city. No, you never do that, folks, because reality is simply is when you do that, you're basically saying, oh, please, please help me, government. Beg, I want you to help me. No, you take the responsibility yourself. You say, and quietly say, I don't want any part of you anymore. I don't want anything to do with you. You wrecked my life. I've already learned my lessons now. This has happened 4 or 5 times in my life. This happened to my parents. This happened to my grandparents. I don't think I need to be a part of this anymore. You know, you may want to repatriate somewhere else, to another country. Although there's nowhere else to go, folks. There isn't. They're everywhere. They spread their disease all over the world because people don't see freedom as the most important thing in their lives. They don't understand if you're not free, you don't have anything. You don't have anything when you're not free. You're ruled by a despot. You're ruled by people who think they're superior to you, which they're not. They just got a government position. And they think that's great. They're built up in their ego, so they cause harm to others. They're psychopaths. Truly. They are truly psychopaths. Most that work for the government think really that they've been so brainwashed they believe that they're doing good. But reality simply is just like a doctor who quote unquote thinks he's helping people with cancer. When reality is 10 out of 10 of his cancer patients die. Reality will show you simply is I'm doing something wrong here. Hello? I'm actually killing people. I'm not actually helping people, am I? Same thing with lawyers. Same way with doctors. Same way with preachers. It's obvious they're lying to you. They've completely bought into being manipulated by others. And they like it because simply is they love money. They love to be a cushion job instead of actually doing good to others. They have violated one of the 10 commandments. You know that? Or basically, as Jesus would say, do unto others as you would like to be done yourself. They violated that principle in their lives because they're harming everyone because of stinking money, which isn't even real, folks. This is something you think is real. It's something that your society thinks is real. So again, I want to share that with you. Communitarianism is the idea simply is that it's a idea that is strictly involved with communism. It never went away. It just morphed into something else because they had to destroy you from within. They couldn't destroy the United States or the free world or Western Europe militarily, so they had to come up with a different option. And that option was based upon Antonio Gramsci, who's an Italian guy who was so much sought out, not sought out, but sought out to try to find something. He was terribly deceived in what he did. And he went to Moscow before he died, and they bought into his idea. Ah, we destroy their principles, their whole things, their their whole belief system. This whole idea simply is that they've used the whole idea. You can see this going on in the late 1800s, and how progressivism takes over. And it's progressivism is saying progress, but it's not progress. It's an oxymoron word. It's not really true. It's not progress. It's actually leading you into slavery. You see, all these ideas took place when people were asleep, because everything was going good. The train was going down the track at 50 miles per hour. There was no hiccups, no nothing. Everything was fine, they thought. But in the back room, someone back here is morphing up something to basically destroy the whole country. And it's also destroying the rest of the world, West, everything. It's very clear. The option simply is that people put out this stuff and they want to scare you to death. Well, fear is a motivator. It is. It will. If you're fearful, you'll be motivated to move in a different way. Say, I'm not going to be a part of this. And that's what I'm trying to say. If you're a man, it's a right man, it's a righteous man, a man who has principles, who has ideas and understands how this is built upon, realizes this is authoritarianism like nothing else in this whole world. They demonstrated that basically in Russia, Soviet Union, and other satellite countries in the past. It's nothing but death. That's all they proved. They proved that death is what they're about. That's the whole thing, folks. It's wrapped up in a package. It's death. If you doubt me, look up the book Death by Government, last century, the 1900s. More people were killed by their own government than even all the wars that took place. And how horrible those wars were, too. Something's really fouled up with man, hasn't it? It's fouled up. It's sick that man thinks he's doing good when in reality he is harming his brother and sister everywhere. And he gets paid for it to do it. And he thinks he's doing something good. And it's usually those who don't really think of what they're doing. They're not actually aware of what they're doing, the harm they're doing to people. You see. It's something that Mark Passio says something that's really key to me. You see, government can't do anything unless it has followers. In other words, if people believe in government, that is power, their power to rule over people. Instead of being benevolent, it's actually the opposite, to dictate and tell you what to do. Those that do that, it's not from the leader. The leader may say something, I tell you to do this, but you have an option. You do have an option in this whole thing, just like I just told you earlier about voting. You don't have to consent. You don't vote. You don't fucking vote. And the idea simply is that when you are told something, if in the military, you need to kill this enemy over here. These guys, in Iraq, they call something. Really? I didn't see a ship here. Did you see an airplane cross the country? Oh, they're terrorists. Well, terrorism is a created idea, so that's another thing in the 1900s. It's used to scare you, to keep you in fear. It's worked really well. But the idea simply is the man and the soldier can say, I'm not going to obey those orders, and I'm not going to kill other people that have not shot me or done anything to me. I'm not going to be complicit of this thing. I'm not going to be a part of it. That's what you got to do. You got to be a man. You got to be a real man who has fucking heart, who stands against falsehoods. You see, not someone who's involved in something. I got to do this. I got to do that. They told me to do this. Really? You had an option. Your options just said no. Same thing. You want to work for the government? You're going to have to tell people they're going to do this. You have an option to say no. You see. So the ones that really actually perpetrate evil are the ones who are the minions. They're the ones that work for the government, you see. I'm here from the government. I'm here to help you. No, you're not. You're here to take from me. You're here to rob me. That's what you're here for. You've been completely brainwashed, believing that you're doing good when in reality you're destroying your own country. And you don't give a damn because your heart is not in the right place. There's nowhere to flee, folks. So the idea simply is to not consent. Consenting, basically, in my opinion, simply is no. I don't see that law here. It says I have to do this. Put it in writing, mister. Oh, by the way, that's harming me. That goes against any kind of belief system you have about the government. Because I'm not here to harm anybody. I'm not going to harm myself, and I'm not going to harm my neighbor. And when you come to that radical decision in your life, you don't turn back. You just move on. So you don't go out here marching, which reality is simply just control opposition. That's all it is. You got all these guys out here, Joe Rogan and all these people, these clowns out here, Alex Jones, all this stuff, such and such. All they are, folks, simply is get off your tail end and start digging and figuring out what this country is all about. Because they're not giving you any remedies at all. No remedy at all. In fact, they're just saying it's getting worse and worse, which is actually fear. And fear, what happens, it also motivates you to do something, but also fear does one other thing. It actually freezes you. You don't know what to do. And that's what they want you to do. They don't want you to do anything at all, you see. So anyway, yes, someone mentioned here, PDL Media now. Yes, thank you. Good to see you. So I'm wrapping it up here, and so I'm just going to, again, like I said, simply is it's foundational, and it's foundational simply is, do I want to do harm to my brothers and sisters? Because that's what communitarianism. They've wrapped it up in a nice package. It's death, folks. It's death. It's slavery. It's all it is. Why are they building all these cities that are not cities, I should say? They're building certain buildings to put you in. They don't want you on the land. They don't think you're capable of doing the right thing. So they want to put you in a box, you see. And these boxes are similar to the Soviet Union. Go look at the old buildings of the Soviet Union. They packed people in. There were 10 people in a 600 square foot, maybe not even one bedroom. They have to spend the night in the family room, or the what I would call the living room. And so that's what they did. And again, R.J. Rummel, R-U-M-M-E-L, talks about death by government. It's not about wars. Yeah, I know wars are terrible, but the death of government, he speaks about it. A Hawaiian professor who spoke about this, got a book out there, talks about this whole issue. And basically, there were more people, again, killed in the 1900 to 1999 than there were all wars put together by their own fucking government. Because there are others that were what's the called the word? Compliant. I got to have a job. I got to have food on the table, and I got to harm my brother and sister. I got to kill them. One way or the other, I got to tell them they're going to send them to the concentration camp. I'm going to send them there. Yeah, non-compliance is the key. Not complying, not being a part of it, not consenting. Thank you. So that's my whole idea here today, sharing with you. And I appreciate you being here, all of you. Spread this information. Yes, it's long. Yes, 45 minutes. I understand. But nothing's easy in this life, folks. You see, you got to read the books. You got to dig. You got to dig. You got to learn things. You got to teach yourself. Because in reality, unless you know these things and speak to your own community and your own neighbors and your own brothers and sisters, they're going to consent. And they're going to do a lot of harm, or they're going to be harmed themselves. Okay? So that's why they call it a new world order. The old world order worked so many years, and now they're going to make it even worse than what the old one was. They gave you what I would call, as I would give this illustration, you're now going to be put in the barn like cows. and you're going to be strapped down just like the pigs are. Go look at those videos sometimes, not from me, but just see what they do to the pigs, how they treat them. They're going to treat you just like that. They're going to strap you down. They're going to keep you where they want you. They're going to follow everything about you, you see. Again, is that fear? No, they've proven they've done this before. They're not going to stop. They're the pedal on the gas pedal. They've got their foot to the pedal. They're going all the way. They're not going to stop. So you're going to have to understand you're not going to comply to them. You're not going to be submissive. You're not going to negotiate, not negotiate with them, because you cannot negotiate with people like this. You see, because they've been completely brainwashed. They believe they're doing good. And how can you do good when you're destroying other people's lives? You don't have that right. You don't have that right to kill anybody else that doesn't agree with you. You don't have that right. That's their choice. But you don't have that right to kill anybody just because they don't agree with you. And that's what these people did. Oh, we need to get rid of these people. Their ideas are not good. We need to get these people out of our lives, such and such. Let's see, you got a question. Do you believe that there was a person named Jesus Christ? No, I don't. I believe that there was someone possibly in the past. The name Christ and Jesus were actually the word Jesus, I-E-S-U-S, which was a Greek word, he was from what we call Galilee. And what I understand simply is if there was such a Jesus, which I don't know if there was, that he basically warned people what we see in Scripture. He points out some key things. He speaks out against the priests. He spoke out against the money changers. And he spoke out about what later on, spoke out, woe unto you lawyers. He spoke out against lawyers. So I don't know if there was a person such as Jesus Christ. They may have used that name, such and such. I don't know. That's not important. But the message, what he says, is very clear. It's very clear that basically simply he spoke out against those who were preachers, teachers who actually told people lie and deceived them. He speaks about lawyers. Simply says, woe unto you lawyers. You're keeping people from them being able to live the way they should live, which is freedom and liberty. And he spoke about money changers basically because they basically stole people's money. They robbed people. And we still have those people in our day. And most of them are bankers. And most of those bankers are Jews. Jews are not God's chosen people. So that's what people may not understand. They can't claim they are they're God's chosen people. But when you look in the Old Testament, and you even see in the New Testament, you see basically that the Old Testament revolves around they're the people of God. They start attacking certain countries to take certain areas of the Canaan, the Jebusites, all these particular groups. And what happens is that they destroy other communities. And if you look at the legacy of the Jews, yes, but it's, you have to understand something. It's not just the money changers, it's actually the lawyers and also the priestcraft. And the priestcraft have actually steered people away also immensely from truth because they wanted to dominate others. They saw themselves superior, and so they felt, oh, we can do this, and we'll teach them falsehoods. But back to the Old Testament simply is that you see the story of Esther. Read the whole story about Esther and how she is a whore using the king to eventually to destroy countries from within. And that's the key. You see that in Egypt, you see that in Babylon, you see that in Persia, you see that in Greek, you see that in Roman civilization. All of them were destroyed not from without, but from within. It's similar to what I talked about the analogy of a Trojan horse. The Trojan horse comes in, oh, here's a gift for you, such and such, and I think it's the Wars of Troy. I think it is, but don't hold me to that. And so they roll this in, and it's like, oh, that's a nice thing. Well, why would they do that for? You see, well, they got men inside of them. Hello, And the idea is people, oh, they don't understand. They don't have eyes to see. So they think, oh, this is great. Yeah, the Pharisees. Yes. The Sadducees, the lawyers, the moneymakers, the ones who deceive people, you see, uh, for their own benefit, not for the benefit of all mankind, but for their benefit, you see, because they saw themselves superior to other people when if they were smart, if they understood what they were doing, if they such and such, they could actually would have educated people in a right way and helped them out to move them upward in a spiritual sense. But in reality, they chose the opposite and chose to deceive their brothers and sisters and to fool them and to lead them to destruction. And so that's what people don't understand and see what supposedly Jesus is talking about. But all you got to do is look at simply what happens in a lot of the Old Testament. You know, what happened in Egypt? Oh, well, you know, this guy named Joseph, you know, the one with the many colors, such and such. And then lo and behold, he has control of all the grain. He has all the grain control of Egypt. He has the power over everyone. In fact, in reality, the Pharaoh is threatened by him eventually, and he doesn't know what to do. Eventually, they steal all the booty. They steal everything that is in Egypt. Yes, they flee, but they're actually known in the past. You know, this is what they've done. They've stealed the booty. The also you see simply is that the God supposedly the worship in Old Testament, their God, whatever their gods are they believing, whoever these people are killing not only the men, they're killing the women and they're killing the children. If that doesn't tell you anything about what this is all about, this is about some type of worship to kill other people and to decimate them, you see, destroy them. It isn't about, you know, let's get along, neighbor, you know, I see you over here, let's get along. Is it all right if I buy some property from you? No, that's not that. You also see the whole idea simply of the belief system later on. They worship a God who is a God of fire, literally. And they put their firstborn and burn them. They actually take their children, their firstborn, as a sacrifice. I think it's called Magod. Don't hold me on that one. But anyway, there's a belief system. They build this whole giant Ephesus, and they're out there building something, it's idol. And in reality, simply is that they sacrifice their firstborn child to this God who's not even real. They made a God. They create. In fact, that's what, you know, I wonder simply is that if anything, the whole idea of God. Yes, Moloch, correct. Baal, that's correct. Right. That's one I was trying to think of. Yes. Why would you do that? Tell me. Why would you do that? That's some type of belief. That's a crooked belief system, isn't it? Why you have your firstborn child and you just sort and you are told to sacrifice that child to Baal and Moloch? Why would you do that for? You're programmed. You're completely programmed to do that. You've been brainwashed to do that. Anyone with a right mind says, why would I do this to my first child? I'm not guaranteed if I have my second child or not, you know? So I'm going to, quote unquote, sacrifice my firstborn? What kind of God is that? Even if it's made up, what kind of God is that? That would tell you in reality simply is that's a selfish God. That would tell you simply is that God needs worship from man. Why would God demand worship? Why would he demand worship? Hello. Why would God need to be worshiped in that way? Because that doesn't make any sense. It's a selfish God. It's a God of man. It's not a true God. Why would God need to be worshiped? God doesn't need to be worshiped. He's who he is. If you follow him. So in fact, if that tells you he's psychologically it's the sick God, you see, he's sick. So anyway, the point simply is that anyway, you got me off track here, but the point simply is that back to communitarianism simply is a way of actually imprisoning people to their deaths. Why in the world would you want to control all mankind? Why would you need a world order? What are you talking about? You see, why would you need a world order to rule over people? Well, that's a dictatorship. That's all it is. But people have been dumbed down or brainwashed, and they don't understand. They haven't been told the end of the story, so to speak. They've been brainwashed to believe that, hey, sounds like a good idea. Let's do this. It's going to better us, such and such. It's a good idea. Really? It's not a good idea. Why would you want to kill your brother and sister? Why would you kill your firstborn? Think about that. If you got a husband and wife and your firstborn, such and such, and immediately you decide, oh, I'm going to kill, I'm going to do this on behalf of the God we believe, this Baal God, Moloch, whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to have him sacrifice and burn. And part of that still goes on, but it's a different way now. It's called circumcision, how they do the male child. You circumcise your child. Why would you do that? Why would you put trauma on your child, folks? It's a belief system. It is so ingrained with people. They just do it. They follow after something. They don't even know what they're doing. One of my great, this is like the analogy that you hear, and I won't go too much longer. It's the idea of simply, hey, my father, great-father, grandfather voted Democrat, and my father voted Democrat, so that if that was good enough for them, I'm going to vote Democrat. That's an asinine statement, if I ever seen one. But that's how people think, you see. See, so this is what happens with people. Yeah, it's a brainwashing, death or sacrifices for the greater good. Yes. Yeah. That's how they lead soldiers into battle too. Makes no sense. Makes no sense. You tell that they program the soldiers to the point simply they go into war and they're told these are bad people when actually the other side says the same thing. They're bad people. And you actually butchered one another. And that's what in reality simply is that what they want. That's part of the whole deal is to destroy men and women, and women now are doing that now. So that's even been more dumbed down. Why would even a woman want to do that? That's another thing. That goes completely against everything that a woman's all about. Because she's a teacher, she's going to be the one who bears children. Why would she want to be in war? Why would she want to participate in that? Why would she see that's already mixed up ideas, you see. So anyway, it's roughly about an hour, and I basically didn't think it was going to go this long, but yeah, the whole idea simply is that, like I said earlier, ideas have consequences by T.S. Eliot, and ideas can be good ideas, but unfortunately, the New World Order, the Communitarianism, whatever you want to call it, is taking place is not a good idea. People are under what I would call a spells, and yeah, I'm well aware of that. I'm well. I went to seminary, PTL, Media News. I went to seminary. I just studied this. Peter Drucker was one of those. He's a change agent. What's his name? He was under Peter Drucker. I can't think of his name. His last name, I think, was Warren. I think his name's Warren. Anyway, yeah, I'm well aware of that. That's why I got out of the church. Part of the reason. Got out of seminary too. Discovered that it was all a farce. But you live and learn. Okay, have you seen large collection of video? No, I have not. I've been busy, to be honest with you. And this is the first video I've actually done, I think, since Wednesday. I did a historical video on a railroad and where I used to live at. And no, I have not. I have other things right now on the, my stove, so to speak. I've got other issues. So anyway, my point simply is, again, with the quotes from Hillary Clinton tells you a lot about who she is and what she represents. And if you see that, simply is we must stop thinking of the individual and start thinking about what is best for society. What that means simply is what is the individual is no longer important. And in our country, that was based upon the individual was what we call the principles of the Constitution. It was for the minority. It was for those who were the few instead of the many. And we're going the other way. And that doesn't spell good things for anybody. So thank you for being here. I hope that you've learned something from this. and I wish you a good day. Take care. Have a good day.